r/ask Reddit. Medical professionals. What is the most shocking story of your career? I'm a pharmacist. One evening shift I was working a relief shift. Not my usual pharmacy. A man comes in looking distressed. Man. I had sexual relations with a woman I do not intend to pursue a long-term relationship with. Yes. He said it just like that. Me. Okay. I'm assuming there was an accident or it was unprotected. How long ago did it happen? Man. Last night. At 7 p.m. on the couch. Whoa, TMI. I just need to know approximate time to know if Plan B will work. Me. We have this medication called Plan B. And since the incident happened within 72 hours, man. Oh yes. I got that for her already yesterday right after we finished. We want to know if there is anything we can do to know if she is pregnant now. Me. Unfortunately not. She'll have to wait 3 weeks or so to see if she gets her period. And if she doesn't, then she can do a pregnancy test then. Theoretically you could do a blood test for faster results. But that would also not be until a couple of weeks. At least. Man. We're just really anxious because she really doesn't want to be pregnant. Is there anything that she can take to prevent the pregnancy? Any multivitamin? Minerals? Food? Me. She's already taken it. Which was the Plan B. There are some other options, but those are prescriptions. And no, there are no over-the-counter products she can take. Man. What about me? Is there anything I can take now to prevent the pregnancy? Any multivitamins or minerals? Me. No sir. There isn't anything you can take now. Comment. He just needs to disconnect the Bluetooth between his balls and the swimmers. Physiotherapist here. For those that don't know, after a total knee replacement, you basically have a 6-week window after the surgery to regain the range of motion. If you don't regain the range in those first 6 weeks, it ain't coming back. Had a patient who was a farmer, who was very enthusiastic about regaining the range because he needed to be mobile for his work. Saw him the first time about 5 days after surgery, showed him all the basic exercises, told him to not do any farm work for at least 6 weeks, and told him to come back to see me once a week for the first 6 weeks. He disappeared and came back about 8 weeks later. His range was non-existent, maybe 30 degrees of range in total. He was visibly mad at me, as if it was my fault. Actually was shouting and calling me incompetent. Our conversation went something like this. Have you been doing the exercises? No. How often are you doing farm work? Every day. Why haven't you come back since the first appointment 8 weeks ago? Too busy with farm work. So to summarize here, you did absolutely nothing that I told you to do, and this is somehow my fault. Never saw him again. Comment. This hurts in my bones as a PT. Not a personal experience, but one from a colleague of mine. I only saw the pics. So this 60-something-year-old suffers from an acute complication and gets a pacemaker to solve the problem. Everything goes normally and as planned. He recovers. Every care and meds that he needs to take are prescribed, explained, and medical appointments with a cardiologist, arrhythmologist are scheduled so that he may get the follow-up he needs. The man then proceeds to never show up to any appointment and never answer any calls from the hospital to know of him and reschedule. This went on for around 3 years, until he shows up without former warning and asks to talk with the doctor that did the procedure to put his pacemaker. People are weirded out, but seeing that on that day the doctor was present and this patient was in clear distress, they talk to him and manage a couple of minutes to have the doctor check on him. Inside the appointment room, the doctor takes notice that this man is wearing a bra inside his shirt. The man explains he has been wearing his daughter's bra for 3 months after his problem got worse. The shirt is asked to be taken off and there he stands, the shirtless man wearing his daughter's bra, showing off the pacemaker, that should have been kept inside his body, dangling outside of it, being held by the left bra cup, with a big infected open wound above it with the pacemaker leads still inserted onto his veins and connected to his heart. Nobody has any idea how the man let that situation come to be or how he didn't die of sepsis or any other health problem that may appear for that matter. TLDR. Man gets a pacemaker, doesn't show up to appointments. 3 years later comes to the hospital looking for help, wearing his daughter's bra for 3 months, to serve as a holder for the pacemaker that got out of his body from his infected open wound. Comment. It is insane how sometimes people die because of a single knock to a certain part of their skull, and then other people will have an infected open wound leading to their goddamn heart and only get concerned after a few months. I used to be a medical oxygen tech, mostly doing in-home work. One guy was on such a high concentration that he would have drawn nearly zero oxygen from breathing regular atmosphere. This required 2 heavy-duty machines hooked up in tandem just to keep him barely alive. This was explained ad nauseum to him and his wife with full signed documentation of every conversation. They'd shut one machine off because they decided it was too loud. He'd take his mask off because he decided it was too cold. She would unplug the hose if she decided it was in the way. So on and so on. Literally everything you could think of that would restrict or cut off his oxygen intake. Then they would panic and call our emergency service when he started to have a reaction to no oxygen intake. I lived not even 5 minutes away, right beside our Thames fire station, and the call would always come to me to fix the machines at random times of the day and night. 3 to 7 days a week. They refused to call 911 because they didn't want to make a scene. This went on for ages, well over 18 months, until he was having trouble sleeping one night and shut the machines off before going back to bed. It's been years and I still see the wife around town. She always glares at me as if I'm the one who killed him. Comment. Christ. I fix medical equipment, and the amount of shit that happens because it's in the way or otherwise inconvenient is exactly why I drink at night. Comment. I work in a totally different field with drying equipment for floods, and the amount of people who shut the fans off due to noise then call to complain why it's taking so long is a normal occurrence. Not me, but sibling. I don't think he'd mind me sharing the story just on the off chance it prevents someone else from making this mistake. Lots of surgeons have a similar story, but thankfully this one doesn't end in someone's death. Parents claim their child hasn't eaten anything before surgery, as they were carefully directed. Turns out they thought the surgical team was just being cruel to their child, and when she said she was hungry that morning, they detoured on their way to the surgical center and got her a full southern breakfast. She damn near died aspirating biscuits and gravy. I've rarely seen my brother so angry and disgusted. Somehow biscuits and gravy looks even more nauseating the second time around, and he was just recounting what had happened. I have no doubt he tore a strip off the parents once their 5-year-old was stabilized, and they probably still felt justified and angry at the surgeon for telling them what they could and could not feed their child right before anesthesia. ETA, the parents did in fact feel justified and hard done by, although as far as I know they didn't express anger at my brother. Knowing him, they didn't get a word in edgewise. Definitely no acknowledgement or realization that they could easily have killed their own child or that they'd made a bad decision. I remember they were annoyed by her whining for food. Comment. There it is. Every time one of these threads comes around, there's a different version of this story. Someday, people will stop assuming that trained professionals don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It may not happen until there aren't any people left, but it will happen eventually. I was in my last year of internal medicine residency, spending a month covering nights at one of our local hospitals. A nurse paged me around 10 p.m. with the message, "Can't place Foley in PT in room XXX." On my sign-out list, it said the patient was a 70-year-old man admitted for advanced heart failure and needed the Foley catheter to track urine output while the team was trying to diurese the fluid off of him. I head over to the ward this patient was on and asked the nurse what the issue was, and she said I just needed to talk to the patient about it. Okay, odd, but whatever. I stroll into the room and meet a pleasant, older man sitting in his bed. The conversation immediately went, "Weird, me. So, what sort of problem were they having with the catheter? Were you having a lot of pain with it or something?" Patient, no, nothing like that. They were just putting it in the wrong hole. Me, the wrong, I'm not sure I understand. Patient, well, you know how every guy has their pee hole and their sperm hole? They were putting it in the wrong one. Me, sir, I'm going to need to examine your penis. It turns out this guy had a hypospadia, which for his entire life he had thought was just how a penis looks because that's what his mum told him as a child. He literally had an accessory hole in his penis and just thought, young, that's how a penis works. A pee hole and a sperm hole. My wife used to work at an urgent care in an undereducated community. I'd guess most of her patients would have you wondering how they made it to adulthood. Some notable patients. 1. The guy who, after learning he had diabetes, vowed to make a life change and replace all his soda with Gatorade. 2. Women who don't know anything about vaginas or menstrual cycles. 3. The people who come in with a history of heart attacks and chest pain that feels like a heart attack, but I know my body and it's not a heart attack. It was always a heart attack. 4. Guys with gross ticks. Hygiene related. 5. People who did their own research. 6. The parents who didn't get their normally not complainy teenage daughter medical attention when she was screaming in pain. After finding out she had appendicitis, they took her home instead of taking her to the ER. Her appendix ruptured that night. Bonus. My kid was in the hospital and sharing a room with another patient. This kid was morbidly obese and was elbow deep in a family-sized bag of potato chips. The doctor came in and really gave it to the mum. Your kid has kidney failure and he's not supposed to be eating salty foods. Your kid has a major condition and you've missed the majority of his appointments. Comment. The parents who didn't get their normally not complainy teenage daughter medical attention when she was screaming in pain. After finding out she had appendicitis, they took her home instead of taking her to the ER. Her appendix ruptured that night. In my country, third world country, in the 5th semester of medicine in some universities you're sent to any village in the country to do a mini rural for about 2 weeks before the semester starts. It was my first experience in an ambulatory, and to put in perspective, not even the private hospitals here has the medical equipment or even the proper medical supplies. So you can guess how it is around where I was sent, that had a population little over 3,000 people and most of it are low to practically poor social class people. Anyway, the thing that most surprised me around there was the fact that almost all of the pregnant, and this is the worst thing, girls were about 12 to 14 years old. I'm telling you that of the 127 pregnant women that came in to get checked, the average age was about 15.7 years old. Obviously most of these girls got raped, and for not surprise of everybody, the other half were in consensual relationships, mostly with guys of the village from ages from 12 to 17. If I keep going with all the things I saw on those 2 weeks I could write a book, but just to say, the expected lifespan of the people around there was about 51 years old. Really rare, taking in accommodation all of the genetics pathologies these people have developed and the amount of little to none health care around there, where the birth rate monthly in just that ambulatory was of 12, all under 18. Really crazy to think how far they've come. Sorry for the English, not my first language. Pharmacist here. 2 come to mind, but I'm sure there are plenty more I'm not thinking of. Woman comes in claiming her medication was making her vomit. Says she can't remember what it is called. I look up her profile and there is nothing recent. Just one-off antibiotics and antifungal from almost a year ago. I asked her if it was over the counter and she said it was. She pointed me to the Monistat cream. I thought it was incredibly strange that a vaginal cream was making her vomit, so I asked how she had been using it. She was taking it by mouth. She says she would fill the plunger with the cream and shoot it to the back of her throat and swallow it so she wouldn't taste it as much as putting it directly on her tongue and swallowing. Another time my coworker, another pharmacist, got served a lawsuit while I was there. The patient suffered a fall and concussion and claimed it was because her lisinopril, blood pressure medication, was increased from 10 milligrams to 20 milligrams and she was not informed and passed out. She was suing the pharmacist, the pharmacy, her doctor's office, and the doctor themselves. It eventually came out in early discovery that she was at a rave and had a back of 0.18 THC and MDMA in her system. The case against the doctor's office, doctor, and pharmacy itself fell apart right away, so she went all in on trying to sue the individual pharmacist. The pharmacy's POS system confirmed that she checked I declined pharmacist consultation at this time, so the case was eventually dropped. Thank you for watching. If you are enjoying these videos, click on one below or on the screen at the end of the video. Have blessed day and stay positive.